This is not what Taylor Swift meant when she said come back stronger than a 90s trend. So, people are saying that heroin chic is coming back. Well, people aren't saying it. Publications like the New York Post is saying it, and then people are running to Twitter and just like blowing it out of proportion, feeding into it, and saying they don't want it to come back, and being afraid that it's coming back, and just basically reacting very negatively to the thought of it coming back. I, for one, had absolutely no idea what the hell heroin chic even was until I heard the term like 50 times in one day on TikTok. So I'm not really sure if making a TikTok telling people to ignore something and then that TikTok going viral is really doing what you wanted it to do. I'm a firm believer that if you want something to disappear, simply don't give it attention. Even if what you're saying shines a negative light on the topic, it's still bringing attention to it. If you ignore something and stop talking about it, it most likely will just go away. Because if you don't want something to exist, don't allow it inside your world. I have seen probably 82 videos of people telling people to just like not pay attention to this trend and not look into it and don't do it, don't participate, and basically telling people to ignore this trend. So naturally, I did research about it and decided to make a video on it. If you ignore something and stop talking about it, it most likely will just go away. I'm a giver, not a taker. I love giving advice, but I don't like taking it. I am a living, breathing contradiction. Deal with it. Okay, so let's just get into the video. What is heroin chic? According to Wikipedia, heroin chic was a style popularized in early 1990s fashion and characterized by pale skin, dark circles underneath the eyes, emaciated features, androgyny, and stringy hair, all traits associated with abuse of heroin or other drugs. So, when I was reading through articles and doing my research on the subject, the name that popped up the most was Kate Moss. So, I googled some photos of her in the 1990s, and what I found really interesting was that I was fully prepared to connect her to Bella Hadid. They're both models, they're both known for how very thin they are, and they were both the it girls of their time. So I could definitely understand why my brain connected the two. Like immediately when I saw Kate Moss, I immediately thought Bella Hadid. Not that they look the same. I would say that Kate Moss looks more like Gigi Hadid, but for some reason my brain went to Bella Hadid. So when I say heroin chic, obviously we're thinking about the 1990s, early 2000s, low-rise jeans, hip bones showing. So I actually want to talk about where this term came from, where it went, and of course, is it coming back? So where did it come from? I think that with any trend, it always starts with the same group of people, the media. Whether that be tabloid magazines of the 1990s, gossip blogs of the early 2000s, or now, of course, social media. It's always because of the obsession with it girls. So, what is an it girl? An it girl is an attractive young woman who is perceived to have both sex appeal and a personality that is especially engaging. They set trends, whether they mean to or they don't, whether it's intentional or unintentional. What they do becomes the thing, you know. Jennifer Aniston and her Rachel Hare from Friends, Paris Hilton and handbag dogs, Jennifer Lopez and those juicy couture tracksuits that she wore. And this is why I understand why heroin chic became a thing in the 1990s. Because if we look back at who the it girls were back then, they were mostly supermodels like Kate Moss, Shalom Harlow. I'm sorry if I'm saying that name wrong. I'm horrible with names. And Deborah Shaw, to name a few. These were supermodels who, I hate to say it because it sounds so disgusting, but it is the truth. as beautiful as they looked like they didn't eat. It didn't look healthy, but at the same time, they made it look good. But there was like this understanding that this was not okay, but it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be unattainable. It's like these brands very much wanted to make it clear only the prettiest, thinnest, richest girls were allowed to wear these designer brands. And that was when heroin chic was at its height. It was at the peak of heroin chic was the 1990s. But a lot of that did leak into the early 2000s. So now in the early 2000s, the thing that was very glamorized and aspirational was the party girl aesthetic, which was obviously going clubbing, stumbling out of clubs at 4 a.m., drunk, high, and half naked, sex tape leaks, and shamelessness. This was the rise of the Paris Hiltons, Nicole Richie's, Lindsay Lohan's, famous for being famous. With the exception of Lindsay because she was an actress. But like, these were like the rise of like the daughters of musicians, hotel heiresses, reality stars. With the exception of like some, artists like Britney and actresses like Lindsay Lohan. But this was basically the height of people becoming famous without actually having any talent. The difference between 1990s heroin chic and early 2000s heroin chic was in the 1990s, the it girls were supermodels and their careers depended on their body. Their careers depended on them being thin. They had to fit into these like sample sizes that looked like they were made for newborn babies. So these models actively worked toward that body type. Whereas the early 2000s it girls, the party girls, the Paris Hiltons, the Nicole Richies, they were more victims of circumstance because their hard partying and drug use made it inevitable that they would lose a lot of weight. I don't think it was something that they were looking for, but I don't think that they fought against it. They very much welcomed that body type. So now I want to talk about the fall of heroin chic, how heroin chic kind of just like disappeared into nothingness and it wasn't perpetuated in mainstream media anymore. Now don't get me wrong, it still very much was prevalent in like the modeling industry and stuff, but I'm talking mainstream media. The fall of heroin chic, I think, came when the new it girls came to be. These were a completely different breed of it girls because they were the Disney it girls. I'm talking Selena Gomez, Ashley Tisdale, Vanessa Hudgens, Miley Cyrus, and then outside of Disney, Taylor Swift. These girls were actors and singers. They came with this like squeaky clean image. And even though these girls were still thin girls, they weren't unhealthily thin. They didn't look sick. They were these fresh-faced, young, rich, and famous girls. And with that, they had boyfriends that girls were obsessed with. So naturally, young girls wanted to look like them and act like them. They were the it girls of that time because of the friendships they had, the relationships they had, the projects they were working on. They weren't clubbing or doing drugs or drinking that we knew of at the time that we knew of. They were, from what we saw, very innocent and bubbly, and parents were like comfortable having their kids look up to these girls. A lot of these it girl eras overlapped each other. New ones and older ones were running the town at the same time, just in different circles. And the next group just slowly became more influential than the previous. It happened It happened very gradually, actually, to the point where you barely even noticed it until one day you just found yourself wondering, what happened to Nicole and Paris? What have they been up to these days? Now, we know that these Disney girls that were squeaky clean and innocent, they had their own issues as well. They had controversial photos leaked, they had drug and drinking problems, and they were partying just as hard as their predecessors. They were just hiding it to protect their careers because their careers didn't center on them being messy. Their careers were in jeopardy if they ever were messy or stepped out of line. So their images were still very clean and they were still considered to be good role models. I don't think that celebrities should ever be role models to kids ever, because you don't know these people, but that's a subject for another video. What I'm saying is that they were still the safest option compared to the previous batch. But we live in a society, and along came the Kardashians, specifically Kim Kardashian. Say what you want to say about Kimberly, but she changed everything. Kim Kardashian brought something completely different to Hollywood. And as much as people want to talk about how Black girls had the booty first, I agree 100%, that's right, they did. But it's not about who did it first. And it's not even about who did it better. It's about who got the most attention doing it. If you make a joke and nobody heard your joke, you didn't make a joke. Controversial, I know, but I don't make the rules. Society does. And we are society. So don't hate me for saying it when you were involved in creating it. So Kim Kardashian popped onto the scene looking like this. And she was so completely far removed from what we expected it girls to look like. Because, I mean, we just came from Kate Moss and Paris Hilton. And then we see this body type. That was very shocking. And I think it was part of the reason why she blew up as fast as she did. She had a very normal, attainable body. And this girl was everywhere. She had her own TV show. She was in movies. She was in music videos. She was on the cover of magazines. You just could not escape this girl. I mean, Kris Jenner never worked harder than she did in the beginning of Kim's career. I still have early Kim K on my Pinterest boards because no matter how much trends change and rumors fly through new skies, I'm right where she left me. But with Kim Kardashian and her body, then came Instagram and the Instagram model. And everyone was showing their surgeons photos of Kim, even Kylie, allegedly. And this is when things changed from attainable, natural, normal bodies to, I don't even know what the hell this was. The Kardashians definitely killed heroin chic, but then they intentionally or unintentionally created a completely new, unattainable, unhealthy trend. BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts. It's like it went from one extreme to another. This is why we can't have nice things. People ruin everything. It can never be just 50%. It has to be either 0 or 100.
She's got a point.
People didn't want to look like this anymore. They wanted to look like this. Now, the modeling industry obviously still very much needed and wanted this, but I'm not talking about the modeling industry right now. I'm talking about like mainstream. And I think that at this point, the Instagram model era, the Kardashian era, I think it was safe to say that heroin chic was definitely dead and gone.
It's over.
Okay, so now we know the rise and fall of heroin chic. But is it coming back? And why do people think that it is coming back? So why do people think that heroin chic is coming back? I have my own opinion on this, and I might be wrong. The modeling industry is coming back or is back it's popular again. It's mainstream again. People actually care about models again. Why? So now this might be controversial, and I'm only on the outside looking in. Obviously, I am not a professional. I'm not a journalist. I'm not anything. I'm just a girl in her room making a video. So I'm not gonna pretend that I know exactly. Like I said, this is all just my opinion. The reason why I think the modeling industry is popular again is because of Kendall Jenner.
Who have been saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
Just hear me out, please. Let me explain myself. If we look back to when modeling became mainstream again, it was when people started complaining about Kendall's walk on the runway, about how she didn't deserve to be where she is, how she wanted to drop the Jenner from her name, how she didn't want her family to come to her shows, her friendship with the Hadid sisters, and like the jealousy that other models that weren't getting jobs were having toward Kendall because they felt like everything was just being handed to her. That's kind of when the models and the drama and the whole modeling world kind of became news again. Like, I can't name any famous models from like 2010, 2013, around that time. Can you?
Hey, I'm just here so I won't get fined. I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians was the start of Kendall Jenner. We saw her start from where Kim was taking her for training and auditions, and she kind of wasn't taking it seriously.
This isn't a joke. You have to start taking this really seriously. Come on.
To where she is now, the highest paid model in the world. We saw all of this happen on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It always comes back to this damn family. The Kardashians are people that everybody loves to hate. And I understand why. Like, people think they don't deserve what they have, and they don't use their power for good, and they lie about plastic surgery, and they steal from cultures that aren't theirs. They are constantly in the middle of drama, blah, blah, blah. You hate them so much, but as soon as Kim and Khloe start to lose weight and allegedly reverse their BBLs, suddenly everyone starts talking about, is heroin chic coming back? Why? Because you, or us as a society, we made the Kardashian trendsetters. We made the Kardashians trendsetters. We are the consumers. So we are the ones who get to decide. And we are the ones who decided that whenever the Kardashians do something, it turns into a trend. It didn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be. Kim Kardashian and her family have power only because we've given them power. Whether you love them or hate them, you gave them power when you hate-watched their show or commented on that TikTok that you hated, made fun of Kendall chopping up a cucumber wrong, or made fun of the way Kim cries.
I start laughing at Kim when she's crying because I just can't help it. She has this ugly crying face that she makes.
You're sitting there laughing. It's not funny. It's not laughing.
So even if you hate them, you made them famous. We made them famous, regardless of how we feel about them. And you know what the funny part is? We're not gonna stop. We're not gonna stop making them famous. And as much as people are saying like it's the fall of the Kardashians, no, it's not. This happens every few years. They hit a lull and everyone's like, oh, this is the fall of the... No, it's not. Even if their show gets cancelled, they're gonna figure something else out. They always do. I'm saying all of these things and I'm acting all high and mighty like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm just not gonna make these people famous anymore. Bullshit, because I'm still gonna keep up with them. I'm still gonna make videos about them. I'm still gonna consume their content because, like I said in the beginning of this video, I am a living, breathing contradiction. deal with it. However, I do 110% stick with this statement, and I will not contradict or go back on it. And that is, heroin chic does not have to come back if you don't allow it to. You have the power here. Us, we, mainstream society, consumers, we have the power, and we can say, oh hell no. We can say, we don't want this. It's not gonna happen. As much as Hollywood or the modeling industry or fashion brands and stuff are going to, or allegedly might, maybe want to push this back, and maybe low-rise jeans come back, or you know, all those little whatever, they literally cannot do it without us. They can't bring anything back. Nothing can become a trend unless we decide we're gonna join in on it. We can literally just not participate. Just do not participate in it. I just don't think that it's really worth hurting yourself and destroying your health and your body because Hollywood, a dying industry, wants to dictate how you should look. It's not worth it. Like I said, I don't know if it's coming back. I just don't think that we need to allow it back. You know, just like be the bouncer at the club and tell it that it's not allowed in. That's all I'm saying.
Period.
If you've made it this far in the video and you enjoyed it or found it interesting, please leave a like, subscribe, and turn your bell notifications on so you can be notified whenever I upload my next video. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, toodles.